Princess Zara stood on her crystal balcony, watching another spaceship disappear into the purple sky of her home planet. The golden ship belonged to Prince Kale from the ice world of Frost Prime, and just like all the others before him, he was leaving angry and disappointed. She had said no to him too. The princess let out a long sigh and touched the glowing crystal pendant around her neck. It was a special gift from her grandmother, one that let her read the thoughts and feelings of anyone around her. Most people thought this was an amazing power, but for Zara it had become more like a curse. Every single alien prince, duke, or wealthy trader who came to ask for her hand in marriage had the same ugly thoughts running through their heads. They didn't want to marry her because they loved her or even liked her as a person. All they could think about was her father's throne, her family's money, or the powerful army they would control if they became her husband. Prince Kale had been no different. While he spoke sweet words about her beauty and intelligence, his mind was busy planning how he would take over 3 star systems once he married her. The Ice Prince had even been thinking about getting rid of her parents once the wedding was over. The thought made Zara feel sick to her stomach. She walked back, into her room, past walls covered with gifts from all her rejected suitors. Golden statues, rare jewels, and exotic flowers from 100 different worlds filled every corner. Yet despite all this wealth and beauty, Zara felt completely alone. A soft knock on her door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called, already knowing who it was from the familiar gentle mind she could sense outside. Her personal helper, an elderly Zephyrian woman named Nira, entered carrying a tray of tea. Unlike most people, Nira genuinely cared about the princess and had been like a second mother to her since childhood. "Another one bites the dust, I see," Nira said with a knowing smile as she set down the tea. "That's 203 princes you've sent packing now." 204, actually, Zara corrected, sitting down heavily in her favorite chair. "I forgot to count the fish prince from the water world last month." Nira chuckled. "Ah, yes, the one who kept trying to impress you by changing colors. His thoughts were probably just as colorful as his skin." "Worse," Zara said, taking a sip of the warm, sweet tea. "He was planning to turn me into some kind of breeding machine to create super-powered heirs." The whole thing was disgusting. The older woman's face grew serious as she sat down across from her young princess. "Your parents are getting more worried every day, you know. The Galactic Council keeps pressuring them to find you a husband soon." Zara knew this was true. Her father, Emperor Zeth, ruled over 12 different star systems, but even he couldn't ignore the political pressure forever. The galaxy was full of wars and conflicts, and many leaders believed that a royal marriage could bring peace between fighting worlds. "I understand their concerns," Zara said quietly. "But how can I marry someone when I know they don't really want me? When I can hear their thoughts planning my family's downfall or treating me like I'm just a prize to be won?" "Maybe your gift is both blessing and curse," Nira suggested gently. "It protects you from bad people, but it also makes it hard to trust anyone." This was something Zara had thought about many times. Her telepathic abilities had appeared when she turned 16, which was considered very young for a Zephyrian. Most of her people didn't develop mind-reading powers until they were much older, and even then most could only sense basic emotions, not actual thoughts like she could. "Sometimes I wish I could turn it off," Zara admitted. "Just for one day, I'd like to meet someone and not know what they're really thinking. I want to be surprised, to wonder if someone likes me for who I am, rather than what I can give them." "That's a beautiful dream," Nira said softly. "But maybe impossible dreams sometimes come true in the most unexpected ways." Before Zara could ask what she meant, the sound of warning bells filled the air. Both women rushed to the balcony to see what was happening. In the distance, bright lights were flashing from the military base where the royal fleet was stationed. "What's going on?" Zara wondered aloud, using her enhanced vision to try to see what was causing the commotion. Nira was already checking her communication device. "It looks like they've rescued a damaged ship from the border systems. The crew was caught in one of those terrible cosmic storms near the edge of our territory." "Are they hurt?" Zara asked, genuinely concerned. Despite all her problems with suitors, she truly cared about people and hated to see anyone suffer. The report says they're mostly okay, just shaken up. But here's the interesting part. They're not from any world we know. The ship's design is completely different from anything in our databases. Zara felt a strange flutter in her chest, though she couldn't explain why. Different how? Well, Nira said, reading more details from her device. They appear to be from a small blue and green planet on the very edge of the galaxy, a world that most people thought was uninhabited. They call themselves humans. The word sounded strange and exotic to Zara's ears. She had never heard of humans before, which was unusual since she had studied the histories and cultures of hundreds of different alien species as part of her royal education. Humans, she repeated thoughtfully. I wonder what they're like. I suppose we'll find out soon enough, Nira said. Your father will want to meet with them officially once they've recovered. It's not every day we get visitors from unknown worlds. That night, Zara found herself unable to sleep. She kept thinking about these mysterious humans and wondering what had brought them so far from home. Were they explorers like the old Zephyrian adventurers she had read about in history books? Were they warriors looking for new worlds to conquer? Or maybe they were just lost travelers who had wandered too far from home. For the first time in months, she felt genuinely curious about meeting new people. With all her previous suitors, she had known exactly what to expect. More of the same greedy, power-hungry thoughts. But these humans were a complete mystery, as in Daim. She finally drifted off to sleep. Princess Zara had no idea that her life was about to change forever. The mysterious visitors from the small blue planet would challenge everything she thought she knew about love, friendship, and what it meant to truly connect with another person. Little did she know that among these strange new beings was someone whose mind she would not be able to read, someone who would see her not as a princess or a prize, but simply as herself. And that would make all the difference in the universe. Captain David Chen had always dreamed of being the first human to make contact with alien life, but he never imagined it would happen while his ship was falling apart around him. The Explorer's Hope had been humanity's pride and joy when it launched, from Earth 6 months ago, carrying a crew of 12 brave souls on mankind's first journey to the stars. Now, as alarms blared throughout the damaged vessel, David struggled to keep his team calm while their life support systems failed one by one. The cosmic storm they had flown into was unlike anything in Earth's databases, a swirling mass of energy and strange particles that seemed to tear holes in space itself. Captain, the main engines are completely fried, called out his chief engineer, Lisa Park, her voice tight with worry. We're running on backup power, and that won't last more than a few hours. David looked out at the strange purple and gold lights dancing outside their cracked viewing window. They were millions of miles from Earth, farther than any human had ever traveled, and their only hope was that someone in this unknown part of the galaxy might be friendly enough to help them. Send out a distress signal on all frequencies, he ordered his communications officer. If there's anyone out there, we need them to know we're not hostile. We're just explorers who got in over our heads. What David didn't know was that their desperate message was already being received by the most advanced civilization in this part of the galaxy. The Zephyrian Imperial fleet had been tracking the strange energy signatures from the cosmic storm, and when they detected the human ship's distress call, they immediately dispatched their fastest rescue vessels. Admiral Orcs, the leader of the rescue mission, had seen many different types of aliens in his long career, but the design of this unknown ship puzzled him. It was crude compared to Zephyrian technology, yet there was something elegant about its simple construction. Whoever built it had put their heart into the work, even if they lacked advanced materials. Bring them aboard carefully, the Admiral ordered his crew. These beings are obviously not from any world we know, and we don't want to accidentally hurt them during the rescue. When the Zephyrian rescue ship surrounded the Explorer's Hope, David and his crew could hardly believe their eyes. The alien vessels looked like they were made of living crystal, glowing with soft blue light and moving through space with impossible grace. They were beautiful in a way that took your breath away. My God, whispered Dr. Sarah Kim, the mission's xenobiologist. Look at the size of those ships and the technology. It's centuries ahead of anything we have. A gentle beam of energy surrounded their damaged vessel, and David felt the ship being carefully pulled toward the largest of the alien craft. Through the communication system came a voice, speaking in a language that sounded like musical chimes, but somehow they could understand every word. Unknown travelers, we are the Imperial fleet of Scifi Prime. Your vessel appears to be in distress. We offer aid and sanctuary until your ship can be repaired. David's heart pounded as he activated their communication system. This was it. Humanity's first contact with alien intelligence. Everything he said in the next few moments could determine the future relationship between their species. This is Captain David Chen of the exploration vessel Explorer's Hope, representing the planet Earth and the human race. We gratefully accept your offer of help. We come in peace and mean no harm to anyone. The response came quickly, and David could hear something like surprise in the alien voice. Earth? Human? These terms are not in our galactic databases. You must come from very far away indeed. Prepare for transport to our flagship. Within minutes, David and his crew found themselves standing in what could only be described as a palace made of starlight. The Zephyrian rescue ship was filled with flowing curves and soft, glowing surfaces that seemed to respond to their presence. The air tasted sweet and clean, and gentle music seemed to flow from the walls themselves. Admiral Orcs approached them, and David got his first close look at an alien being. The Zephyrian was tall and elegant, with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. His eyes were large and kind, and when he spoke, his voice carried warmth and genuine concern. Welcome aboard, Captain Chen. I am Admiral Orcs. We have never encountered your species before, but your distress call showed great courage and honesty. These are qualities we value highly. As they were given food and medical attention, David learned that they had been rescued by representatives of a vast galactic empire that spanned dozens of star systems. The Zephyrians were ancient and wise, with technology that seemed like magic to human eyes. We must bring you to our capital world, Admiral Orcs explained. Emperor Zeth will want to meet you personally. It has been many years since we encountered a completely new species, especially one that travels between the stars. During the journey to Scifi Prime, David spent hours talking with the Admiral and learning about galactic civilization. He discovered that there were hundreds of different alien species, each with their own cultures and abilities. Some could read minds, others could change their physical form, and a few could even travel through time. What makes humans special? The Admiral asked curiously. Every species has unique gifts. What are yours? David thought carefully before answering. I think our greatest strength is our curiosity and our ability to hope. We're not the strongest or smartest species, but we never stop asking questions and we never give up on our dreams. That's what brought us out here to the stars, the dream of meeting people like you. Admiral Orcs seemed impressed by this answer. Curiosity and hope, he repeated thoughtfully. Those are indeed rare and valuable gifts. When they finally arrived at Scifi Prime, David could hardly believe what he was seeing. The planet was like something out of a fairy tale, with crystal cities that reached into the clouds and flying vehicles that moved like schools of fish through the air. Everything was beautiful and peaceful, showing centuries of advanced civilization. Your ship will be repaired using our finest technology, the Admiral promised. But first, you must be presented to the royal court. Emperor Zeth is eager to meet Earth's first ambassador to our world. As David prepared for the most important meeting in human history, he had no idea that somewhere in the crystal palace above them, a lonely princess was also preparing to meet these mysterious humans. Princess Zara had spent the entire day wondering what these new beings would be like, feeling more excited about meeting strangers than she had felt in years. Neither of them could have imagined that this first contact between their species would lead to something far more meaningful than diplomacy or trade agreements. Sometimes the most important moments in history begin with two people simply being curious about each other, and that curiosity was about to change both of their lives, forever. The grand throne room of Scifi Prime was the most magnificent sight David had ever seen. Walls of pure crystal rose hundreds of feet into the air, filled with swirling colors that danced like the northern lights. Hundreds of alien nobles from across the galaxy had gathered to witness this historic first meeting between humans and the Zephyrian Empire. Emperor Zeth sat on a throne that seemed to be carved from a single massive diamond, his presence commanding respect from everyone in the room. Beside him sat Empress Luna, whose gentle smile reminded David of his own mother back on Earth. But it was the figure standing slightly behind them that caught his attention and held it. Princess Zara was nothing like what David had expected from an alien royal. She wasn't wearing a fancy crown or covered in jewels like the other nobles. Instead, she wore a simple white dress that seemed to glow with its own soft light, and her long silver hair flowed freely over her shoulders. But what struck him most was her eyes. They held a sadness and loneliness that he recognized from his own mirror. "Welcome, Captain David Chen of Earth," Emperor Zeth's voice boomed across the Great Hall. "You and your people have traveled farther than any unknown species in our recorded history. We are honored by your visit." David stepped forward and bowed respectfully, just as Admiral Corex had taught him during the journey. "Your Majesty, I bring greetings from Earth and all of humanity. We are grateful for your rescue and your kindness to strangers." As the formal ceremony continued, David noticed something strange. While he could feel the curious stares and whispered thoughts of the other aliens in the room, some friendly, some suspicious, some merely bored, he couldn't sense anything from Princess Zara. It was as if she was completely focused on him, studying him with an intensity that made his heart beat faster. What David didn't know was that Princess Zara was experiencing something she had never felt before in her entire life. For the first time since her powers had developed, she was looking at someone whose thoughts she couldn't read. David's mind was completely closed to her, like a book written in a language she had never learned. The feeling was terrifying and wonderful at the same time. Without her telepathic abilities to guide her, Zara found herself actually listening to what David was saying, watching how he moved, paying attention to the sound of his voice and the expressions on his face. She was experiencing what normal people called getting to know someone, and it was amazing. After the formal presentation ended, Emperor Zeth invited David to stay in the palace while his ship was being repaired. "The work will take several weeks," the Emperor explained. "Our engineers want to study your technology and understand how you managed to travel so far with such simple equipment." David smiled at the polite way the Emperor called human technology primitive. "We'd be honored to share what we know, Your Majesty. Maybe we can learn from each other." Over the next few days, David found himself settling into life in the Crystal Palace. He spent his mornings working with Zephyrian engineers who were fascinated by human problem-solving methods. While their technology was far more advanced, they were impressed by human creativity and the way humans could find solutions with limited resources. But it was during the quiet afternoon hours that the most important part of his stay began. While exploring the palace gardens, David discovered a hidden corner filled with Earth-like plants and a small pond that reflected the purple sky above. He was sitting there, writing in his journal about everything he had seen, when a soft voice interrupted his thoughts. "Are those the symbols humans use to record information?" David looked up to see Princess Zara standing nearby, looking curious, rather than royal. She had changed from her formal dress into simple clothes that made her seem more like a regular person than a princess. "Yes, this is what we call writing," David explained, holding up his journal. "We use these letters to represent sounds, and the sounds make words that carry meaning." "How fascinating," Zara said, sitting down on a nearby stone bench. "We Zephyrians record information directly into crystal matrices using our thoughts. I've never seen anything like your method before." This began a series of afternoon meetings that both of them looked forward to more than anything else in their day. They would meet in the secret garden and talk for hours about their different worlds, sharing stories and ideas that fascinated them both. David told Zara about Earth's oceans and mountains, about human cities and the way people live together, in families and communities. He described human emotions and dreams, the way people fell in love and raised children, the art and music that made life beautiful. Zara shared stories of Zephyrian history, of the ancient wars that had shaped their civilization, and the development of their psychic abilities. She explained how different alien species had joined the galactic community, and the complex politics that kept peace between so many different worlds. But more than just sharing information, they were connecting as people. David found Zara to be incredibly intelligent and thoughtful, with a dry sense of humor that made him laugh despite being millions of miles from home. She asked questions that challenged his thinking and shared insights that opened his mind to new possibilities. For Zara, David represented something she had never experienced before: genuine companionship. He didn't want anything from her except her friendship. He wasn't trying to impress her with his wealth or power because he had neither. He was just interested in getting to know her as a person, something that had never happened to her before. "Why did you really leave Earth?" Zara asked one afternoon as they watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of gold and purple. "What, were you hoping to find out here among the stars?" David was quiet for a long moment, thinking about how to answer honestly. "I guess I was looking for proof that we weren't alone in the universe, that somewhere out there were people we could talk to, learn from, maybe even become friends with." "And did you find what you were looking for?" Zara asked softly. David looked at her, seeing the way the fading light made her silver hair glow like moonbeams, and felt something in his chest that he had never felt before. It wasn't just friendship or admiration. It was something deeper and more powerful. "Yes," he said quietly. "I think I found something even better than what I was looking for." Zara felt her heart skip at the warmth in his voice. And for the first time in her life, she didn't need telepathic powers to understand what someone was feeling. She could see it in David's eyes, hear it in his voice, and feel it in the way the air seemed to shimmer between them. They both knew that something important was happening, something that could change both of their lives forever. But they also knew that their growing friendship was dangerous. A human and an alien princess. It was the kind of connection that could start wars or end them, depending on how the galaxy chose to react. As they sat together in the growing darkness, neither of them spoke about the future or the problems their friendship might cause. For now, it was enough to have found someone who understood them, someone who saw them for who they really were rather than what they represented. But in the shadows of the palace, other eyes were watching, and other minds were already making plans that would test their connection in ways neither of them could imagine. The peaceful days in the Crystal Palace came to a crashing end when Prince Vorthak arrived with his war fleet, blocking out the stars above Zephyria Prime. The Draknari Empire had sent their most dangerous warrior, Prince, and he wasn't coming alone. 50 massive black ships surrounded the planet, their weapons powered and ready for battle. David was in the engineering bay helping repair his ship when the alarm started blaring throughout the palace. Admiral Orcs rushed in with a grim expression on his face, his usual calm completely shattered. "Captain Chen, you and your crew need to prepare for immediate departure," the admiral said urgently. "We have a serious situation developing." "What's happening?" David asked, his heart already racing as he thought about Princess Zara and whether she was safe. "Prince Vorthak of the Draknari Empire has arrived with a battle fleet. He's demanding an immediate audience with Princess Zara, and he's threatening to attack our world if she refuses to see him." David felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. He had heard whispers about Prince Vorthak during his time in the palace, how he was one of Princess Zara's most persistent and dangerous suitors, and how his rejection had made him furious beyond reason. Meanwhile, in the throne room, Princess Zara stood beside her parents as they faced the holographic image of Prince Vorthak. The Draknari prince was a terrifying sight. Tall and muscular, with dark red skin covered in battle scars and eyes that burned with barely controlled rage. "Princess Zara," Vorthak's voice boomed through the communication system like thunder. "I have come to claim what should have been mine months ago. Your continued rejection of my proposal has become an insult to the entire Draknari Empire." Emperor Zeth stepped forward, his own anger rising. "Prince Vorthak, my daughter has the right to choose her own path. No one can force her into marriage, not even to prevent conflict." Vorthak's laugh was cold and cruel. "Rights? Your daughter's rights mean nothing when weighed against galactic peace. The Draknari Empire controls 17 star systems and commands the largest military force in this sector. War with us would destroy countless worlds. Princess Zara felt her telepathic abilities reaching out automatically, trying to read Vorthak's true intentions, but his mind was focused on one thing: conquest. Not just conquering her, but conquering her entire family and taking control of the Zephyrian Empire for himself. I will give you 3 days to reconsider, Vorthak continued. Either Princess Zara agrees to marry me, or I will consider your rejection an act of war against my people. And I promise you, Emperor Zeth, that war will not end well for your precious crystal cities. The hologram disappeared, leaving the royal family in shocked silence. Empress Luna reached out to comfort her daughter, but Zara was already thinking about David and how this crisis would affect him and his crew. Within hours, representatives from the Galactic Council arrived on emergency transport ships. These were the most powerful leaders from dozens of different worlds, and they were all saying the same thing. Princess Zara had to sacrifice her personal happiness for the greater good of the galaxy. Your Highness, said Counselor Thane, an ancient being whose species had been peacekeepers for thousands of years, we understand this is difficult, but Prince Vorthak's threats are real. The Draknari Empire has destroyed entire civilizations when they felt insulted. So you want me to marry a monster to keep him happy? Zara asked, her voice shaking with emotion. We want you to prevent a war that could kill billions of innocent people, another counselor replied coldly. Personal desires must sometimes be set aside for the greater good. David heard about the ultimatum from Nira, who had become his friend during his stay at the palace. The elderly Zephyrian woman found him in the garden where he and Zara usually met, and her face was full of sadness. She's being forced to choose between her own happiness and the safety of the entire galaxy, Nira explained quietly. The council is pressuring her to accept Vorthak's proposal. David felt like his world was falling apart. In just a few weeks, he had found something more precious than all the discoveries of his space mission combined. Princess Zara had become not just his friend, but someone he deeply cared about. The thought of her being forced to marry that brutal prince made him feel sick with anger and helplessness. There has to be another way, David said desperately. She can't marry someone like that. He'll destroy her spirit even if he doesn't hurt her physically. What can we do? Nira asked sadly. Prince Vorthak has an entire war fleet, and the council is too scared to stand up to him. That night, David couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Princess Zara and the impossible choice she was facing. Finally, he made a decision that would either save her or destroy any chance of peace between their peoples. He went to Emperor Zeth, privately, and requested an audience with the Galactic Council. Your Majesty, I want to speak for Princess Zara. As someone from outside your political system, maybe I can offer a different perspective. Emperor Zeth looked surprised, but hopeful. Captain Chen, what could you possibly say that would change their minds? Let me try to show them who Prince Vorthak really is, David said firmly. And let me prove that humans might be more valuable allies than they think. The next day, the Galactic Council assembled to hear David's testimony. Representatives from dozens of worlds watched as this unknown human stood before them, looking small and insignificant compared to their ancient wisdom and power. Honored counselors, David began, his voice steady despite his nervousness. I know I'm just a human from a small unknown planet, but I've had the chance to observe Prince Vorthak through Princess Zara's eyes, and I've learned something important about him. He paused, looking around the room at faces that ranged from curious to hostile. Prince Vorthak doesn't want to marry Princess Zara to bring peace. He wants to marry her to start a war that will let him conquer the Zephyrian Empire and expand his own power. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the assembly. David continued, gaining confidence as he spoke. Princess Zara has a gift that lets her read the true thoughts and intentions of others. She's rejected hundreds of suitors not because she's stubborn or selfish, but because she could see their real motives. Every single one of them wanted to use her for power, wealth, or political advantage. Even if that's true, Counselor Thane interrupted, it doesn't change the fact that refusing Prince Vorthak could start a galactic war. But what if I could prove that he's planning to start that war anyway? David asked. What if I could show you that giving him what he wants won't bring peace, but will only make him stronger and more dangerous. The council members looked at each other uncertainly. Finally, Counselor Thane spoke again. How could you possibly prove such a thing, human? David took a deep breath, knowing that his next words would either save Princess Zara or make everything worse. Because Princess Zara isn't the only one with special abilities. Humans have gifts too. Gifts that might be exactly what this galaxy needs to see the truth about Prince Vorthak and his real plans. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut, as David prepared to stake everything on one desperate gamble to save the woman he had come to love and protect the peace of the galaxy. At the same time, the great council chamber fell silent as David prepared to reveal his plan. Princess Zara had been brought in to witness the proceedings, and when their eyes met across the room, David felt a surge of determination that made him stronger than he had ever been before. Honored counselors, David said, his voice carrying clearly through the crystal hall. Humans may not have telepathic abilities like many of your species, but we have something else. Something we call intuition and pattern recognition. We're very good at seeing when someone is lying even without reading their minds. Counselor Thane looked skeptical. And you believe this intuition can expose Prince Vorthak's true intentions? Not just my intuition, David replied. Princess, Zara's telepathic abilities combined with human analytical thinking. If you'll allow us to work together, we can show you exactly what Prince Vorthak is really planning. Emperor Zeth stepped forward, hope beginning to shine in his eyes. What do you need, Captain Chen? A direct communication link with Prince Vorthak's ship, and permission for Princess Zara to use her abilities openly in front of the council. It's time everyone knew the truth about what she can really do. Prince Vorthak's holographic image appeared in the center of the room, his arrogant smile growing wider when he saw the assembled council. Ah, I see you've finally come to your senses. Are you ready to announce Princess Zara's acceptance of my proposal? Actually, David said, stepping into view, we wanted to ask you a few questions first. After all, this marriage will affect the entire galaxy. Surely you wouldn't mind sharing your plans for the future? Vorthak's eyes narrowed when he saw David. Who is this primitive creature, and why is he addressing me? This is Captain David Chen, representative of the planet Earth, Emperor Zeth announced. He speaks with the authority of the Galactic Council. Princess Zara moved closer to David, her telepathic abilities reaching out toward Prince Vorthak's mind. What she found there made her gasp in horror, but she forced herself to stay calm and relay what she was discovering to David through subtle signals they had developed during their time together. Prince Vorthak, David said smoothly, once you marry Princess Zara, what are your plans for the Zephyrian Empire? Surely you'll want to bring the benefits of Draknari leadership to all these star systems. Vorthak's chest puffed up with pride. Of course, the Zephyrians have grown soft with their peaceful ways. They need strong leadership to reach their true potential. Zara's face went pale as she read the violent thoughts pouring from Vorthak's mind. She saw his plans to eliminate her parents within months of the wedding, his intention to strip mine the beautiful crystal cities for their valuable minerals, and his dream of using the Zephyrian fleet to conquer even more worlds. And what about the other members of the royal family? David continued, watching Zara's expressions carefully. I'm sure they'll be honored to serve under your guidance. Some will adapt to the new order, Vorthak said with a cruel smile. Others, well, change is always difficult for the weak-minded. Princess Zara couldn't stay silent any longer. Counselors, she said, her voice shaking with emotion. I can read his thoughts right now. Prince Vorthak isn't planning to bring peace. He's planning to murder my parents during our honeymoon and claim the throne for himself. He wants to turn our peaceful empire into a war machine to attack innocent worlds. The council erupted in shocked murmurs, but Vorthak just laughed. The desperate lies of a spoiled princess who doesn't want to do her duty. They're not lies, David said firmly. And I can prove it. Prince Vorthak, if your intentions are truly peaceful, why don't you swear a sacred oath in front of the council that you'll never harm Emperor Zeth or Empress Luna? Vorthak's smile faltered for just a moment, but it was enough. I don't need to prove anything to primitives and weaklings. Or better yet, David continued, pressing his advantage, why don't you agree to a mind meld with one of the Council's telepathic members? If your thoughts are pure, you should have nothing to hide. Enough of this nonsense, Vorthak roared, his true nature finally showing through his polite mask. I am Prince Vorthak of the Draknari Empire. I don't answer to councils of cowards who hide behind ceremony and tradition. The Zephyrian Empire will be mine, with or without this farce of a marriage. The admission sent shockwaves through the council chamber. Councillor Thane rose from his seat, his ancient face filled with righteous anger. Prince Vorthak, you have just confessed to planning regicide and conquest. The Galactic Council hereby declares you a threat to interstellar peace. You think your words frighten me? Vorthak snarled. I have 50 warships surrounding your pathetic planet. Surrender now or watch your crystal cities burn. But Vorthak had made a critical mistake. By threatening the Council directly, he had united dozens of worlds against him. Within hours, ships from every major civilization in the galaxy were jumping into the Zephyrian system, their combined firepower dwarfing even the mighty Draknari fleet. Faced with overwhelming odds, Prince Vorthak retreated, but not before promising revenge against both the Zephyrian Empire and the primitive humans, who had exposed his plans. In the days that followed, the galaxy began to change in ways no one had expected. Princess Zara's brave stand against forced marriage inspired other royal daughters across the stars to demand the right to choose their own futures. The Galactic Council passed new laws protecting individual choice and establishing strict penalties for those who threatened worlds to get their way. But the most important change happened in the quiet moments between David and Princess Zara. As they walked through the crystal gardens where their friendship had first blossomed, they both knew that something wonderful was growing between them. You saved me, Zara said softly, her hand finding his as they watched the sunset paint the sky in brilliant colors. We saved each other, David replied. You taught me that love isn't about what someone can give you. It's about who they are when no one else is watching. 6 months later, the galaxy witnessed something that had never happened before. A wedding between species that was based on love rather than politics. Representatives from hundreds of worlds came to celebrate as Princess Zara and Captain David Chen pledged their hearts to each other. Their union created the first interspecies cultural exchange program, bringing together beings from across the galaxy to share knowledge, art, and friendship. David's crew became the first human ambassadors to alien worlds, while Zara used her telepathic abilities to help resolve conflicts between different species. Together, they proved that love really could bridge any gap, even the vast emptiness between the stars. Their children would grow up in a galaxy where differences were celebrated rather than feared, where curiosity was valued over conquest, and where two hearts could find each other no matter how far apart their worlds might be. And in the royal archives of Zephyria Prime, scribes recorded the story of the alien princess who rejected every suitor in the galaxy until she found the one person who saw her not as a prize to be won, but as a soul to be cherished. It became the most beloved love story in galactic history, proof that sometimes the most beautiful things in the universe happen when we least expect them.